Hi everyone, my name is Julie. This is Keep Calm with Books and Coffee. I talk about books on this channel, mainly books about magic, and today we are going to be doing a review of The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. Hello everyone, and welcome to a review of the book that I read twice last year. On first read, I gave this a 4.5, and then on reread, I gave it a full 5 stars and absolutely adored it. This is a really interesting fantasy mystery story, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of a review of this book in case you were interested in it, and there will be no spoilers, but we will be talking about some of the things I liked and disliked about this book. So we start off this book with the death of a military engineer who quite literally has a tree grow out of his body. And in order to find out what happened and if this is a danger to the entire empire or not, we see Din, an engraver, go to the crime scene. And Din, being an engraver, means that he can recall immediately what he sees. Like, he memorizes that fact. He retains all the information of what he sees at a crime scene. He's basically been magically gifted the ability to recall anything. He has a perfect memory. So he goes to the crime scene, investigates, and then he takes all of this information back to the lead investigator, Anna, who is our Holmes type character. She can see patterns. She uses Din as her eyes and ears at crime scenes, and he brings her all the information for her to decipher. And the two of them work together in order to figure out what happened at this particular crime scene, and then if it is affecting the empire at large. Our major content warnings for this book are body horror, murder, and death. Those are the big ones. I will link the Storygraph page where you can check out all of the user-generated content warnings if you are interested in looking for something specific, but those were the big ones in my opinion. Overall, this was a really interesting book. I thought it was a really interesting take on the Holmes and Watson dynamic, and I really enjoyed our characters. I think in the wrong hands, you can get a Holmes character who is unlikable and abrasive, but Anna has some of the better traits of Holmes while still retaining that character feel, but it's also her own person. Same with Din. They are have some of those archetype feels of the Holmes and Watson dynamic, but they have their own relationship and they have their own personal quirks as well, and I really appreciated that. I also liked that instead of it being similar ages, we had a older investigator and a younger engraver. It was just an interesting change to that dynamic. It was more like a mentor-mentee, had that element to it, which was really interesting. And I appreciated that twist on this relationship. Personally, I was really nervous about the writing style of this book because I didn't like Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. However, I think this worked better for me because we only had one perspective. The thing I didn't like about Foundry Side was that I felt like we were getting a lot of repetition between each of the points of view, but in this we only follow Din's point of view, and therefore we just follow him and things aren't super repetitive like I found in Foundry Side. I thought the world building was super fluid and easy to follow for the most part. The part I critiqued this book for upon first read was that I thought it was difficult to tell all of our side characters apart. Anna and Din were super clear-cut to me. Their voices were different. Din differentiated Anna from everyone else, but some of the other political figures and other players in this book I found to be difficult to parse out upon first read. I didn't have that problem as much upon reread. Of course, I had the experience of the first, read under my belt, but I also had I paid attention a little more. I think the first time I had split up my reading of the beginning of this book a lot. I had a few days in between reading different sections. So you might not have that problem if you read it a little more put together than I did. But for me, it was just difficult to tell all the side characters apart. I was also only listening to the audiobook, so I had to rely on my memory of people's names and titles and positions, whereas I feel like sometimes with a fantasy book you can tell that a little bit better in the physical because it's something you're seeing over and over again. So that might have been a me problem, but I think there were a lot of characters that we got introduced to in a lot of different positions, and you just have to pay attention there, or you could get confused. like I did on first read. I also found this to be an excellent blend of fantasy and mystery. The balance between the two was really, really well done. The mystery was a strong plot thread through the entire story. That was our main point of the story. Like, if you took that away, you wouldn't have a story without the mystery. But if you took away the fantasy elements, the mystery also wouldn't make sense. So that made this a really good genre blend to me. The mystery was the main thoroughfare, but we kept adding and building the fantasy on top of everything as we moved the mystery forward. And I thought that was just incredibly well done. I was really fascinated by this world. I thought it was a great, like, unique take on fantasy and empire, and it blended a lot of really interesting things together as far as these like big leviathans that are attacking the empire from the outside, but we also have this flora and fauna within the empire that is dangerous. I like it personally when I get to the end of a book and the mystery is solved, that I can look back and see the breadcrumbs that got us there, even if I didn't solve the mystery myself. And I did feel that here. I did feel like there were breadcrumbs leading us in the direction, but maybe I couldn't have put it all together without the, final reveals and everything. And I really enjoyed that part of the book, that it just, maybe I couldn't put it all together without that essential piece of information, but I could see how we got led here to some degree. And I did enjoy that and like that about this book. There's also just a few callbacks to the original Holmes stories that were interesting to me. But overall, this was just a really fascinating blend of fantasy and mystery, and I cannot wait for the sequel. If you have any thoughts or feelings or want to share anything about the book that I talked about today, please let me know down below. That is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!